All right, folks, welcome on back here this Monday, March 21st, this time here at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time for Norman and for all of us live inside Cyber Group. Great to see you all back rejoining us. Bill, Johannes, John included as well, and the rest of us here just chatting back here in a second. Great to see all of us otherwise on social media, Facebook Live or YouTube. Folks, we have a lot to talk about. And at least for this afternoon, we have a little amount of time to do it. We have class coming on ahead at 3:05 Eastern Time. So great to see Kathleen. Great to see Ray rejoining us here too. Perfect. So for right now, to begin, the YMTX on the screen. Unfortunately, it's pulling back down right now and quite a bit. It seems like it even wants to break lower here from previous support off of like 180-ish, 182. No, 190 right there. But nonetheless, though, ended up making a nice run going into this afternoon, right? So a few of us, like Norman, were able to catch some money on it. Norman caught 14 cents himself right in from 201. But yeah, ended up making a nice move initially from like 160-ish, 165 once it broke its top. From there, moved up, like I said, just very nicely up towards the top there at the time. About a 17,000 share iceberg order on the ask at 250. Listen, 17,000 doesn't seem that big in the grand scheme of, other examples that we've called out. I mean, let alone from this afternoon and from this morning. But, it's just to say, though, that given the rest of the other orders out there on the book, it was relatively big, right? It's all about relativity when it comes down to following the big money, following the volume. And that's exactly what we're going to begin to talk about this afternoon in class. We're going to talk more about, order types, market versus limit here this afternoon, but we're going to pick the ball up right where we leave off heading into Wednesday this week to wrap it up. But yeah, I mean, right now, the YMTX here heading into the close, I do not like the drop off for right now. So, the best I could do right now is put it on the side list, maybe come back to it at the very end. Certainly, we'll come back to it and put it on our watch list if it shows stronger signs of life from this very point. So we'll come back to it. We'll see. But otherwise, though, the star of the day today, holy smokes, the NRSN stock breaking all-time highs early this morning and just kept on giving. Ended up making this nice squeeze shortly after the market opened up from 2 all the way up towards 657-ish. Then from there, broke out a bit later on, heading into the early afternoon from like 6 upwards towards just about the high there, 820, 818. But same to be said here, as I just said on YMTX, and listen, the spread's huge on this type of stock. The order book is very thin. And with that, just even a lot of price levels lacking orders in general across the bid and the ask, it makes for these types of shakes. It could allow for the type of pop that we caught earlier. But it also allows for this type of drop off if we, see lower highs and then for it to come back down to support again. So no surprise here. I'll put this on the side list for right now alongside that YMTX. I have no issue coming back to it at the end. If it makes some sort of, false breakdown here and slingshot right back up. But just to show the all-time high on this trade really briefly, stock's pretty much a new IPO back from November, December of last year, and then broke that top, just, the high there at the time, 470. So early within the morning, it did that. And, perhaps it will pull back down there even here this afternoon as support. That's an extremely shoot from the hip, guess. It's exactly that, a guess. I mean, but we'll see. I mean, we'll come back to this at least at the end. All right, so this was on the top of the gainers list already. The warrant is actually up even more. That's not too surprising. So with that, it's just beginning to make the same type of drop off here as it made the lower high from previous. The order book is relatively similar here as it was on the stock itself, which is kind of surprising. So, that makes this even more volatile compared to even the regular equity NRSN. Makes it just more difficult to get out on larger size positions. So we're going to skip over this one for sure. The equity itself, NRSN, will come back to, like I said, at the end. All right, we keep it moving here, folks. We'll do a tiny Bitcoin here this afternoon, not like a full-fledged analysis video that'll be clipped off. We'll do a separate one later on this week. But, Bitcoin dropped off with the market heading into the early afternoon. We'll talk about the drop within the SPY here in just a bit. Nice recovery, at least so far right now. But getting back to the, list here, CRXT ended up making a nice move going into the real early afternoon, broke the top roughly off of 110, and that was shortly after 12:30 Eastern time. Ran up really nicely, right? I don't think it got halted. It was pretty damn close to getting halted, though, just right off the last little spike up here. And then, unfortunately, we ended up seeing it begin to pull back, break below support, even though it made a higher high technically just on the 1-minute chart. But just to say, ended up snapping right back down off a false breakout, broke below that support there, and then from there just kind of coasted on back down. So, Yeah, this one we're going to pass on. Maybe if it ends up making a bigger move, if not this afternoon, then maybe tomorrow, later on this week. I would have no problem coming back to it. This stock is definitely more up our wheelhouse as a team. Just consistently tight spread, very liquid order book, and even with that in mind, it allowed the stock to make a near dollar move for a $1 stock. So that's pretty damn impressive. All right, quick little water break there. CRBP though, just looking flat for right now. I thought that's why. My dyslexia getting in the way. CDZI, I meant to actually click on here. A lot of these are below $1, so unless if they're really making a pop, you folks let me know on that, but I'm going to skip over them for right now. The CDZI stock ended up making a nice little move throughout the entire day, really. Beginning to make a pullback down right now. It's not really trading a whole lot of volume per minute. It's more within our price range, and definitely order book looks pretty decent. But again, just trying to be a little picky here for a rather uneventful day. We had the SPY drop off, like I said, but uh, aside from that, really not much to write home about. I mean, the NRSN, of course, but in terms of overall activity, more of a nickels and dimes day. It's kind of usual for a Monday here. So SPPI, flat right now. Just going to skip over it here for right now. It made a nice move from this morning, but again, it's kind of just dead. The UTME trade, I ended up doing all right on this at first. I ended up getting in and out quickly for about 14, 15 cents on half of my position. And then the other half, I tried to let it ride up, which obviously didn't happen. I ended up getting stopped out on that break even, but ended up dropping right back down. Right now, I guess you could say it's trying to inch back up a bit here, but not really too impressive to me so far. My plan's a buyout, so I should have skipped over that here right away. All right, we keep it going here, folks. HUSN was kind of a pop and drop type of play. I told you to be careful for that type of move here once the market opened up, at least for those that were in Cyber Group. That was the one thing I had mentioned right as it was beginning to test up towards the 350 level. We needed to see a lot of buying off that price, right? That is exactly what I had mentioned during the morning meeting. So, it's to say if we see buying, then we'll look to try and take that trade. But otherwise, if we fail to see the buying, or if we do and the stock that just doesn't really seem to want to go anywhere, then we can't fight it. It's like swimming upstream. In this case, you're going to get drowned by the drop off here. And then this ended up just completely dumping. So, yeah, right now we're going to pass on this one here too. But just lesson to be learned. History just has a tendency to repeat itself. Just take a look on HUSN previously. Even on these days where it had a stronger day than today, the following days it only dumped back down. All right, one of us having a quick audio issue inside the trading room. Just chatted to him briefly there. Let's keep it going. CENN ended up making a nice move from today. So this alongside the NRSN were, two of the better movers from the day. The CENN trade ended up making a nice break off of the 2 level. At first was a little slow, but ended up, breaking higher pretty nicely. And again, same to be said here as I said on the others, just dumping back down pretty harshly here for the meantime. So I would just wish they were closer to the highs. And, if there's a stock that's closer to the lows here heading into the afternoon, I'll be more keen to follow that should it be shortable. So let's see what else we got here across the gainer side first, but we'll definitely hop on over to the losers list next. All right, we got AKAN. I saw one of us had called this out earlier, ended up making like a low float, low volume squeeze up. I guess you can just easily say this is a new IPO here as well, just back from a few days ago even. All right, this is looking a hell of a lot better. CYRN, nice pop, at least heading into the early afternoon. We had called this out initially, but I took my eyes off it personally just over the last 30, 45 minutes. So ended up beginning to make that, pullback, but actually held support roughly off of 660 there, ended up snapping right back on up and over 720, and even tried to test 8 recently here. So yeah, CYRN looks really good, at least to put this on our watch list for the close. Looking at level 3 here, at least for right now, I don't see much. There's about 10,000 on the bid. Just make sure that guy can hold. Not much really showing too prominently on the asks. So I would assume 8 to be that much bigger level. And we haven't even seen 8 get tested heading into the afternoon so far. It came close, but no cigar. So that leads me to say, look for the false breakout at first. Look to see a lot of buying coming in off that 8 level. Let it prove itself out to be a strong buying level. Then from there, once the once the opportunity is prime, once it keeps testing it, then you look for the bigger breakout. But yeah, we'll definitely put this on our list here, the CYRN. All right, let's see what else we got here. BBIG was a bit of a bust, unfortunately. BKYI, familiar name. I'll at least click on it. Ended up making a big pop for us back in last week, just about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, perhaps you can call that. But for right now, kind of uneventful. 2 wacky spikes up, but pulled right back down, making higher lows, I reckon you could say. But I don't know, just kind of inconsistent volume coming in on that trade, so I'm not a fan. I meant to click on GFAI here really quick. BBIG trying to sneak back up, I guess, but we'll pass on it here. I don't think it's ready to make that big squeeze up. And if so, if it does make that pop, then we'll try and react to it afterwards or just shortly after it makes that pop. But the GFAI, another one that ended up making a nice run heading into the early afternoon. This one off of 120, 125. I know Norman had called this one out inside our trading room earlier. Ended up topping off under 150, the lower high, and then the pullback. It's like the same exact pattern as we had just previously. All right, so with that, let's hop on over to the loser side here for right now. The VLAN, we were hoping for a dead cat bounce, but I was a little wary of a false break because it already made a nice squeeze beginning from the pre-market. So where did we leave off on it? Let's take a look. Ended up, well, it made that pullback, and that's where I said to be a little careful in case if it ended up making a lower high from that point after the market opened. Double top. I mean, that's a lower high to me, basically, right? I mean, hit the high, came back down, made the real lower high over time around 10 a.m. And then even right now, it tried to move back up a tiny amount, but failed to really show, good momentum. So right now, I'm not a fan of this trade. Maybe if it can, bounce back up as we're doing the audio broadcast for us inside the trading room later, then we'll look to, follow it from that point. But again, we'll pass on it for right now. All right, a whole bunch of crap that is hard to borrow on the loser's side here, at least. That's typically where I could say it's quite impossible to borrow. IMGN, gonna pass on it here, although shortable, just really flat. BEKE, let's take a look on this one. This one has been a great sideless stock, extremely volatile, and since it's been dropping back down in price a tiny amount, the spreads have been filling in, just a bit. I've noted that over the last couple of days. My first real look at it today, though, and that's where I could say this stock seems like it will have a consistently tight spread for 1, maybe 2 cents the most. But yeah, right now it just is flat. Otherwise, it's a good sideless stock. It looks like we missed out on a good short this morning on this BEKE. So I'll be more keen to follow it tomorrow morning with that in mind. So I'll just say that. But yeah, let's see what else we got. Billy here, BILI, another drop off. Not as great as a short compared to the BEKE, but nice little move down. Oh yeah, we had the KC trade too, another Chinese stock, I believe, Chinese stock, but ended up making a big move with the other Chinese stocks from last week. So this stock is shortable. It's at the lows, right? So it's down over 11% shortable at the lows. That's exactly what I would want to look for here for a short here heading into the close. So definitely KC. John says the CYRN trade is popping right now. Hey, I mean, we put that on the list already. That one was looking pretty nice. We have 2 on the main watch list. That's really it. We have 2 on the side list that we'll jump back to in just a moment. If there's any other stocks, folks, up, down, left, right, more than 5, 10%, certainly a hell of a lot more. Let me know. Type it in the chat board. Got one on YouTube here pretty briefly. Let's see. From Mitch calling out the IRNT. Let's see. Yep, that one's looking pretty good to me. So IRNT definitely makes the list. Let's take a look just on level 3. I don't have level 4 book map loaded up right now, folks. Kind of a balanced order book, I'd say. Not really showing a clean iceberg order. Let's see what happens off of 450. That would be the presumptive resistance level. Maybe there's volume from the New York Stock Exchange that shows the iceberg there, or maybe through the ARCA book otherwise. But yeah, this looks incredible. IRNT in terms of just the chart, the higher low, the break higher right now. John says just turn back over to the GFAI trade. It's just been flat since, right? We kind of talked about this earlier. Ended up making a nice move going into the afternoon, but unfortunately just made the top and didn't really hold strong to the highs, at least just yet. Actually came back down quite a bit. So I'd be a little wary on this one, but hey, if it ends up popping, John, I'm sure that you're already in the trade. That would be my guess. And if so, you're probably in from a decent price like 132, and you're probably up a couple pennies off to a good start on a higher share position. So that's where I'll send. He says yes. There we go. Really quick, John. How long have you been a student here at CTU? I wouldn't say that about a brand new student. So I wouldn't make a guess like that out loud for a brand new student. John's been with us probably, I was going to say 4 years, 3.5 years, he wrote. So I know how John trades. So, listen, if it ends up popping, you'll be the first to let us know, John. Please. I mean, that's how we work together here in the trading room. So, right now, I'm not fully convinced on it just yet, but he's up a couple pennies. He's off to a good start. And if it ends up breaking higher, then we'll definitely give it another look. There we go. That was pretty funny. CISO moving up from Norman. It is moving back up. And Bobby wrote that on YouTube, kind of just joining us a bit late right now. He says, could use a bit more volume, though. And I would agree on that part. But it's breaking over not just the highs from today, but also the highs from like the last 2 weeks, you could see, right? So listen, it could still be a false breakout. This can snap down pretty ugly here coming up. But maybe coming up here at 3 o'clock on the flip side, perhaps the order book will fill in more. And should it, that would make it a more enticing trade to actually trade instead of just follow and watch. Right now, I'm kind of in the follow and watch stage of this right now. I'm not fully convinced because of the order book, but that's where I'll kind of recalibrate, look to see where the buying came in just over the last 30 or so minutes. And then I'll, just kind of see where the stock could bounce off of from that point. Let's see, from RJF, MULN looking for a bounce. Sheesh. I like the volatility. And for that reason, I'm actually more keen to put this in particular on our list. But man, where I left off on this trade was just a moment ago, probably about 30 or so minutes ago before the meeting started. I had made a call out inside the live trading room. Hey, MULN worth watching at 350 support again. That was a big support level throughout the day that ended up making for a great resistance actually at first. So I was hopeful to see 350 hold as support. Man, that thing ended up breaking below 350 faster than you could ever imagine. So, that's where I turned away from it. It didn't even give it a chance for a slingshot, zero. So, with that, man, what a drop off this thing had. And it's the drop off that is making me more interested in trading this because, I don't think it's going to break back over 350 clean. But from this point, if we can grab 30 cents out of it for a $3 stock, 10% move, not bad. You know what? I do like this one. We'll give this a look here, the MULN. All right, folks, before we finish up, and hopefully my platform doesn't freeze up here as I try and do this, but I want to show the SPY briefly, just in terms of following Bitcoin in particular. We ended up seeing a little headline come out heading into 12 o'clock noon. I think it was Powell basically insinuating there's going to be another rate hike in May, another I might get the number wrong here, but 25 basis points, if I'm not mistaken, up to 50, and that might be the theme going forward into the next hike after that. I don't know why he wanted to say that on a random Monday. I didn't think that there was anything too big coming out at 12 o'clock on a Monday. Perhaps I could have been more privy to knowing the schedule economically on the financial calendar. But, we had the Fed meeting last week. We knew that this was the assumed plan. So what was the reason of saying that again? To tank the markets there, huh? I mean, that was my opinion on it at first. Well, we ended up seeing the SPY make a sharp drop, broke below support here off of 445-ish. I drew lines off closing bell prints from the last few days. The yellow lines here, those are the closing bell prints on the SPY from the last few days. And then also I have a couple of fib sets up there between retracement lines. But what I want to show, namely, though, is just to show that although the markets dropped off here, and they bounced, right? Bitcoin didn't really drop off as far as the SPY did, at least right around noontime. So we'll do a separate Bitcoin video coming up, over this week, over the next couple of days at that. But we ended up seeing Bitcoin, of course, drop. But whereas we ended up seeing the markets continue to drop off heading into 1 o'clock, 1:15, Bitcoin was holding pretty strongly. So once we started to see the markets begin to push back up, and you can see here like 115, 130, the markets were breaking lower at that point where Bitcoin was holding. Well, that's where we got our bounce. So that was pretty interesting to at least see on a very short-term, low time frame schedule, just kind of seeing Bitcoin hold a little bit stronger compared to the S&P ETF here. But with that in mind, though, we'll kind of just see what happens over the next few days. Bitcoin, I've been saying forever, kind of screaming it from the mountaintops. It needs to hold over 40,000, 40,500. Back from Friday of last week during the afternoon meeting, I showed it. You can go back on the video. I ended up showing a position, a leveraged position I took, and I ended up taking it under that price, anticipating a pop. That was more of a risk I took, and well, thankfully that paid off. But with that in mind, though, it's showtime. We got to see Bitcoin hold over that 40,000, 40,500 area. This morning, with the drop off that we had, we ended up seeing it do just that. At least it held above 40,500 and it bounced back up pretty nicely. So we just got to keep seeing continuity with that. And I feel like we'll get separation between Bitcoin and the S&P as a whole, over time. Not immediately, but over time. All right, folks, with that, I'm going to finish up. I don't think that we have any other stocks to work with here heading into this afternoon. Please let me know, though. Otherwise, I'll go an extra like 20 seconds. But we got to make sure all of our students are ready to go alongside myself for class this afternoon, right at 3:05 Eastern time. Once again, folks, for all of us that have access to the Phase 1 curriculum, we're going to do class today, Phase 1, Lesson 2. We're going to be talking more about order types, market versus limit orders. New lows on AMC. It's like a side list stock, just dropping off a little bit, but kind of like watching the grass grow there, Jeff. Gonna pass on it. Oh, you know what? Before I even finish up, how about this? I looked down at my notepad. I didn't go over the two side list stocks I wanted to at least jump back to. The YMTX is not going to make it. We're going to pass on that. The NRSN, right now beginning to make a bit of a slingshot back up here. So, you know what? We'll give it an extra look, the NRSN stock. Make sure I don't have like scratchy throat before I do my sign off. All right, for all of us on YouTube and Facebook Live, I appreciate you sticking with me each and every day across the whole day today. I know that Fausto will tag back in for me tomorrow morning, back in his normal seat to do the morning meeting there for you folks. But if you have any other questions, thoughts, comments, suggestions, feel more than free to send on over an email right to josh@ctutrading.com. Always like to post my email there on the YouTube stream, at least to finish up. If you wanted to join us inside our live trading room, just feel more than free as well to go right down to the link on the yellow banner below this time to get yourself started on a small trial. For students like Michael and Jeff and Norman and John and Leda and all of us otherwise, I look forward to talking to you folks coming up in class later on this afternoon. I know that Rich will be back on the mic here coming up in about 7 or 8 minutes. Take care.
Become a Cyber Group member today. Just click the link below and receive all these amazing products and a world of knowledge for just $9. Do it.